Bringing you up to the minute and relevant news in local and international maritime trade, this is Nimasa This Week. Hello and welcome. My name is Iretiola Doyle. As part of its oversight functions, the Senate Committee on Marine Transport, led by its chairman, Senator Zainab Kure, was in Lapai, Niger State recently at the Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University to inspect the progress of work at the Maritime Institute set up by Nimasa. Before embarking on their official duties, the distinguished senators stopped over at the palace of His Royal Highness Alhaji Umar Bago Tafida, the Emir of Lapai, to pay homage to the royal father. Our cameras were there and captured every detail. We present this report from our studios.
In line with its resolve to develop human capacity for the maritime sector, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency Nimasa came up with the highly successful Nigerian Seafarers Development Program (NSDP) to complement the achievement of the NSDP scheme and fast-track the process of growing a pool of professionals that will drive the maritime sector. Nimasa, under the administration of its DG, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akpobolokemi, established maritime institutes in 4 Nigerian universities. These are the University of Lagos, University of Nigeria Nsukka, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University, Lapai, Niger State, and Niger Delta University, Wilberforce Island, Bayelsa State. Although the institutes are presently operating from different temporary sites, Nimasa has since begun the construction of befitting structures to meet the requirements of these centers for advanced maritime studies. Last week, the Senate Committee on Marine Transport, led by its chair, Senator Zainab Kure, went on an oversight visit to the Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University, Lapai, Niger State, to assess the level of work going on at the permanent site of the Maritime Institute in the institution. A team from Nimasa was on ground to conduct the distinguished senators round some of the ongoing projects. Upon arrival in Lapai, the delegation stopped over at the palace of His Royal Highness Alhaji Umaru Bago Tafida, the Emir of Lapai, to pay homage to the royal father. While delivering the goodwill message of the DG of Nimasa, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akpobolokemi, the Deputy Director of Maritime Guard Command, Hajia Lamitu Maka, underscored the essence of the visit and commended the Emir for his continuous support of the Nimasa project in Lapai.
The senators have come together themselves to see how far the contractors have gone, to interact with the university, to interact with us, and most importantly, to thank you for the support that we have gotten in Lapai.
Senator Zainab Kure, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Marine Transport, spoke on the exigency of their functions and some of the principles guiding the operations of the committee.
This Committee on Marine Transport, we're just getting to 3 years as we were inaugurated, decided that all the projects that are under our purview must be visited by the committee, because doing an oversight over them, this is the executive, we are in the legislature, of course, because we appropriate the funds, we have to be able to be convinced that what we appropriate is being matched with what is on ground.
In his response, the Emir of Lapai, Alhaji Umaru Bago Tafida, commended the management of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, for citing the Maritime Institutes in his domain, and pledged his unalloyed support to the administration of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR.
Indeed, what we have done has reinforced our belief in Project Nigeria. The citing of this project here is reflecting the unity and purposefulness of this administration. And this is one more reason why we are all committed to support this administration at all costs, at all times.
Done with procedures at the palace, the delegation moved down to the permanent site of the Maritime Institute to inspect the construction works going on at the place. The committee was thorough in its assessment and interacted with the representatives of the construction firms handling the various projects at the site. Some of the ongoing projects inspected included the lecture auditorium, administrative complex, library, lecture theatre and the Management Information Center. The Deputy Director and Head of Public Relations at Nimasa, Isiche Osangbe, summed up the outcome of the visit.
As you can see, a lot of work is going on. The projects are springing up and at least far beyond the expectation of the senators. And we are glad that the contractors are committed to their job and payments are being made in that regard. As you know, Nimasa is a civil service organization and things are done according to rules and regulations. Payments are done with due and relevant certifications, and the due processes are being followed.
It is expected that the completion of constructions at the permanent site will enhance learning, encourage research, and provide adequate knowledge in the field of maritime studies.
Nimasa, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. For Obonga shipping registration, no. Nimasa, commercial shipping, no. Nimasa, maritime labor, Nimasa.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, the nation's maritime watchdog, established to promote maritime safety, security, commercial shipping, and regulate maritime pollution. Nimasa is well positioned and committed to take the development and standardization of Nigeria's maritime industry to greater heights. Are you interested in the local or international commercial shipping business or in seafaring and do not know what to do or how to go about it? Nimasa will guide and see you through. Sea pirates, oil thieves, and all forms of dubious and illegal business on Nigeria's maritime domain have no hiding place because Nimasa's eagle eyes will locate or catch up with you. For Nimasa, it is zero tolerance to sea pollution as all abandoned ships and wrecks on Nigeria's waterways which pose danger to sea transportation will be cleared. Nimasa, promoting safe and secure maritime environment.
The introduction of the satellite surveillance system will no doubt curb the activities of marauders on our waterways. To further educate Nigerians on the effectiveness and functions of the satellite system, Captain Waredi Eniswo, the Director of Shipping Development, took us on a tour of this high-tech device located at the corporate headquarters of the agency. Our waterways correspondent, Amanda Akpan, put this story together.
Whenever there is a report on sea robbery, piracy, or other criminal activities on the Nigerian territorial waters, the agency responsible for safety on our territorial waters spring into action to see that the perpetrators are caught and the ship vessels and people on board the vessels that have been attacked are alive and safe. The agency responsible for safety in the Nigerian maritime domain is the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa. In order to reduce the rate at which sea robbery, piracy, and other criminal activities occur on our territorial waters, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, recently launched the operations of its satellite surveillance system. The satellite surveillance system with cloud-penetrating radar capabilities will be used to capture the presence of any vessel that calls Nigeria's exclusive economic zone, which extends about 200 nautical miles seawards from the coast of Nigeria. Located in the corporate head office of the agency, the Nimasa Satellite Surveillance Center is headed by the Director Shipping Development at Nimasa, Captain Waredi Eniswo. Captain Waredi takes us on an educative tour of the equipped center where all monitoring activities are carried out. The next port of call is the control room or the operations room. a room which serves as a central space where a large physical facility or physically dispersed service can be monitored and controlled. It is always restricted from movement except from the qualified and trained watchkeepers from Nimasa. Captain Waridi Eniswo tells us more.
We're supposed to have 2 watchkeepers. Myself, who happens to be a senior person, and my assistant, who equally has the same knowledge. So you've got 3 screens. We split the screens into these 2 workstations. The pilot controls the first 2 screens, and the co-pilot controls the last screen. And they are all LCD screens, so they are self-powered with backlight, so that the lighting in this area does not in any way affect them. And on the wall here, because of the watchkeeping ability of the place, we can dim this lights to as low as 0, so that the watchkeepers can have a very good ambience in dealing with their jobs.
Curious to know what the 3 screens in the control room were meant for, Captain Waridi Eniswo tells us about the areas of interest designed by the agency to keep track of vessels entering into the Nigerian coastline.
The first screen concentrates on the Nigerian coast. And then the second screen is about the area lists which we have created. What has happened is that we have created areas of interest around the coast of Nigeria, and I will expand it later on to show you those particular areas of interest. Out here we've got a second intelligence screen so that we'll be able to look way beyond Nigeria.
To round up the tour, Captain Eniswo gives a practical approach of how the satellite surveillance system is used to look out for regions outside the Nigerian coastline. In an exclusive interview with the Director Shipping Development at Nimasa, Captain Waridi Eniswo gives us a detailed explanation of the agency's choice of the satellite surveillance system.
Nigeria's coast is quite a long coast. We have 853 kilometers of coastline to monitor. We decided that the first stage we're going to carry out was to build radar along this particular coast, but the electricity challenge in providing radar coverage for the 856 kilometers is well appreciated. So we decided to go air surveillance, and we've worked very well with the Nigerian Air Force on that one, but it being real time, and at the same time also the capacity on what you can detect is limited when you fly aeroplanes. We decided to go for something that can see from outer space for longer periods of time and also with high precision. And that's how we went into the satellite surveillance system.
Providing a safety net for anyone doing business in Nigerian territorial waters is a major concern for the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Captain Waridi Eniswo urged all the different armed forces involved in responding to threats against the nation's business environment to tap into the satellite surveillance system provided by Nimasa.
If you don't know where ships are, if they send out a distress message, you're not going to know how to respond. So with this system now, we know where every ship is inside our waters. So if there is any problem, we now know how to respond. And that was one of the main purposes of establishing the system. And we're so glad that finally it has started working. And we want every of our armed forces that are going to respond to any threat against this nation's business environment to tap into it.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, has once again reaffirmed its commitment to seafarers by assuring them of a secure marine environment from within which to operate. The DG CEO, Mr. Patrick Ziakeda Apobulokeme, who was represented by a director in the agency, Mr. Chuks Ngbemenam, gave this reassurance at the 2014 Day of the Seafarers, which held in Calabar recently. Our correspondent, Rachel Ubani, reports.
The 25th of June every year has been set aside by the International Maritime Organization, IMO, to celebrate the seafarers globally in recognition of their immense contributions to the growth of the shipping industry and the world economy. This year's celebration marks the 4th edition of the IMO's global campaign, Day of the Seafarer. In a special message to commemorate the day, the IMO Secretary General Koji Sekimizu explained that the seafarer face hardship and danger every day to keep our global economy afloat. He said for this year's campaign, everyone is invited to complete the theme, Seafarer has brought me, with something specific that has been made possible with the aid of the seafarer.
In the midst of all these activities are the people who work on the ships, approximately 1.5 million seafarers. So this year, on June 25th, the Day of the Seafarer, we are once again asking people everywhere to show their appreciation for the seafarers that quietly, mostly unnoticed, keep the wheels of the world in motion.
A surf through the social media, as requested by Mr. Sekimizu, revealed responses like, Seafarer has brought me, friends and colleagues, good health, dredging, education, my job, love, my car, etc. In compliance with the IMO directive, in Nigeria, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, commemorated the day recently in Calabar. The DG CEO Nimasa, Mr. Patrick Akpobolokemi, represented by the Director of Special Duties, Mr. Chuks Ngbemenam, said Nimasa has demonstrated its resolve to improving the working and living conditions of the seafarers by embarking on various capacity building and welfare programs, which includes the successful implementation of the Nigeria Seafarers Development Program, NSDP.
The ratification and entry into force of the Nigerian Maritime Convention, Nigerian Labour Convention 2006, which was facilitated by Nimasa, is yet another bold step towards ensuring that the working and living conditions of our seafarers are in tandem with international standards.
Presenting their goodwill messages, stakeholders at the event commended Nimasa for steps taken to improve the lot of seafarers and for celebrating them.
I want to use this opportunity to commend the Nimasa management for the efforts geared towards improving the loss of these people, and especially celebrating them on their own day called the Day of the Seafarer.
I want to assure you that in the MSC 2006, there is room for control. One party is not going to cheat the other.
Delivering the keynote address on behalf of the Executive Director, Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services, Barrister Callistus Obi, the Deputy Director, Maritime Labour Services, Mrs. C.N. Wokocha, stated that the role of the seafarer in socio-economic development of nations cannot be overemphasized and should be celebrated.
It is also on record that Nigerian seafarers have greatly contributed to the massive movement of the offshore oil and gas equipment and materials to sites. Their contribution to the table delicacies, from the rich seafoods, the intelligent information they provide, the protection of our marine environment, amongst others, make them unique and a special category of global workforce.
The high point of the event was the technical paper on work ethics delivered by Mr. Clement Nwoba, crewing manager CS Offshore and Japol. He called on seafarers to provide fair value for the wage they earn. He also touched on the Bill of Rights of the Seafarer, obligations of the seafarer to the employer, and competency and motivation to ensure safety at sea is achieved.
Good seamanship involves knowledge of what to do in the face of imminent danger of collision. However, with an incompetent crew that is poorly motivated and unqualified, what will be the result? Poor service delivery and loss of contracts.
The Nimasa Eastern Zonal Coordinator, Mr. A.C. Ogadi, closed the event by thanking all stakeholders present. He used the opportunity to speak on the significance of the day and called on everyone to join voices with IMO and other agencies to thank the seafarers who have been described as the unquantifiable catalysts in the development of the great economies of the world.
Nimasa this week is a very important program for the maritime industry. It educates stakeholders on responsibilities and mandates of Nimasa and really directs us on what we should do to develop this industry which we all cherish and love. So I commend the producers and the management of Nimasa on this program, and I encourage everyone to tune in every week for Nimasa this week.
The International Ships and Ports Facility Security Code, otherwise known as the ISPS Code, was established to provide security in and around port facilities all across the world. In compliance with the international directive, Nigeria set up the Port Facility Security Officers Forum to provide security mechanisms all around port facilities in the country. In the year 2013, Nimasa was appointed the designated authority for the implementation of the ISPS Code here in Nigeria. To commemorate the 10th year anniversary of the introduction of the ISPS Code, Nimasa, in conjunction with the Port Facility Security Officers Forum, put together a gathering to sensitize stakeholders on the significance of the ISPS Code. Our Waterways correspondent, Amanda Akwan, reports.
The national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria opened the Port Facility Security Officers Forum in Lagos, which was held to mark the 10th anniversary of the implementation of the International Ships and Ports Facility Security Code in Nigeria, also referred to as the ISPS Code. The event was co-hosted by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa. The theme for the epoch-making event was titled ISPS Code Implementation, The Journey So Far. The welcome address of the 10th anniversary celebration of the coming into force of the ISPS Code was given by Mr. Anataku S. Suberu, the chairman of the Port Facility Security Officers Forum.
Today, 1st of July 2014 marks a decade of the International Ship and Port Facility Security Code all over the world. The ISPS Code, which is an offshoot of SONA 74, is a consistent standard and comprehensive arrangement that focuses on mitigating threats and security risks against ships and port facilities.
Mr. Suberu also pointed out that the PFSO Forum was established under the defunct Presidential Implementation Committee on Maritime Safety and Security (PICOMS) as an appendage of the designated authority, which has now been taken over by Nimasa in line with the provisions of the ISPS Code. Giving a fatherly speech at the celebration, retired Major Henry Ajejumobi, a pioneer member of the PFSO Forum, who also has served in the ports and maritime business for over a decade, spoke on the security threats faced in the port environs.
If there's anything we can say about security, it is that the whole world is being challenged to come up with preventive rather than reactive measures. And if we must say, security has become the fastest growing industry in the world because of the threats to the security and well-being of mankind.
The Executive Director of the Maritime Safety and Shipping Development at Nimasa, Captain Ezekiel Bala Agaba, was represented by different members of the ISPS committee set up by Nimasa in ensuring a successful implementation of the convention. One of the committee members then gave a presentation on Nimasa's strategy for the implementation of the ISPS code in Nigeria, as Nimasa is the designated authority to the convention. The high point of the event was the presentation of the plaque to two distinguished members of the PSFO Forum, who were honored for their immense contributions towards the process of formulating the policy that has been implemented today. They include the pioneer chairman and the secretary of the forum. At the end of the event, retired Major H. Ajejumobi evaluated Nimasa's performance as the designated authority for the implementation of the ISPS code.
I think Nimasa is on the right track. Nimasa, as you said, is just a little over a year that it was appointed as the designated authority. And what that means is that it is the point of contact between Nigeria and the outside world that are signatories to the IMO. Given the wide consultations they started by making with critical stakeholders in the maritime industry, it would be right to say that they are right on track.
And so we come to the end of this week's edition. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, each one tell one. Nimasa this week is interactive. We want to respond to your questions, your comments, and even your criticisms. All you need to do is send us an email to the address currently showing on your screen. Now, I'm going to be here, same time, same station next week. Until then, we're wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.